think I went out too soon.
No, there it is.
Is it okay? And here's Terry Donahue from the Anvil Orchestra.
Thank you. My partner in crime is up there waiting to sell you some stuff at the merchandise
In the
table.
East Lobby. So only Roger couldn't join them on stage today.
He's up there.
Oh, he's up there. Where?
No, he's in the East
Oh,
lobby.
back in the
waiting.
East Lobby,
He's
waiting for you
right
to
now.
buy some stuff.
He's a
Okay.
little shy.
All right. So, and joining us on stage will be Omar Mosafar, Brandon Ferry, and Nate Cohen. Let's put you in the center, Terry. And I'm going to put Omar right next to you. I'll sit
Stooge
here.
in the middle.
So jumping right in, tell us how do you choose the movies you're going to do?
Well, we've a long history of it. We've been doing this for 35 years.
Yeah, I've been here for
plus,
so many of those years. They've been wonderful.
It's just great. It started with Metropolis. A friend of ours in Boston wanted to show Metropolis. He loved the restored. Somebody else likes it too. The mid-'80s restoration by Giorgio Moroder with a disco rock score with Freddie Mercury and Pat Benatar and Loverboy, and he didn't think that was really appropriate for Metropolis, so he asked us, hey, we got 2 weeks, can you come up with something for a movie? We'll play for a weekend. That's how it started, and now it's been a 35-year weekend. It didn't take long before we were invited to the Telluride Film Festival, where we met Roger Ebert, and somewhere there's a picture. Our sound man took of Roger taking a picture of us, and I would love that picture. I have no idea where it ended up. So Telluride would, for a bunch of years, Telluride would supply the films, and then it became a collaborative. Do you want to do something like this or something like this? And we lean towards action because we have a lot going on, and we don't want to overwhelm. And then there is the wish list. This has been on the wish list for quite a while. Things like A Page of Madness was on the wish list for quite a while. So, everything in its time. So we're very happy to have this one.
And then in choosing the music, like for example, you said Freddie Mercury, Pat Benatar might not be appropriate for Metropolis. This seems like an organic process. How do you figure that out?
Well, we've always composed collectively, which is, I think, somewhat unique. We go in our studio. Well, first of all, we all watch the films by ourselves, and we all have great ideas of what we're going to do. And then we get in the studio, and 99 times out of 100, those ideas go out the window, and we just start to play. The hardest part is coming up with the very first piece of music. Once that's there, usually it snowballs into a full score. And scene by scene, we try to score it. And then we try to squeeze them all together, hopefully into one seamless performance. And then being able to do it live, it changes every time, so it keeps it exciting for us, and it keeps us on our toes, and there's a lot of room to play around within the somewhat rigid structure. And some films lend themselves more to the improvisational side, and some are much more structured.
Yeah, I felt watching this, it was so seamless that I kept forgetting this was a live presentation here. It was wonderful.
Well, thank you. That's one of the two. Well, thank you. That's one of the two greatest compliments we can get. One is we forgot you were there, and the other two is next time I'm going to watch the movie. So, it's tough. We're down in the pit, so it's easier to forget. If we're up on the stage, then you can bounce back and forth or watch us. Some people think that's a little interesting.
I think it's because it's such a rare treat to have live orchestral music, and so that's why we forget you're there.
And you could watch this film 100 different times with 100 different composers and performers, and they would make you feel different every time, which is the beauty of live performance.
Yeah, and I feel like the 2D animation, which is beautiful in itself, your music, I think, just added a third dimension to it.
Well, thanks.
So I remember when Roger and I saw you in Telluride, we used to have the Concrete Orchestra, and we saw you in Telluride, and we loved it so much, and we knew we wanted to bring it back here, but we didn't want to make it seem like we were poaching you from Telluride, so we actually went to Tom Luddy and asked permission to make sure that it was okay, and he said, no, we think it's there, we love them, we think it's beautiful. If you think it's beautiful too, go right ahead. And so we got their blessing.
Oh, I didn't know that, but I know a lot of our global performances came out of the Telluride performances. So.
You see the parallel here, right? The magician tried to snatch, and they did it the right way.
Oh yeah, so that's a question that I have to ask. You know, sometimes we present something that may have some cultural insensitivity, like I wasn't very thrilled with the portrayal of the African magician, but there is something I had never seen animation like this before, and I thought it was really important to present it to our audience.
Yeah, I mean, depictions of Islam, for example, this is 1926. This is an era of what we'd call Orientalism. This is when we have the Thief of Baghdad, Rudolph Valentino, and such. And the depictions are often either of pageantry or savagery, right? And that even continues through today. You all know depictions of Muslims in popular media. And this was focused more on the pageantry, but still you can escape the savagery. When I'm watching, even before looking at things like bigotry, stereotypes, I'm just looking at, do I enjoy myself? Is this good? This was fantastic from that perspective. In the depictions, I'll always go for pageantry over savagery and such. And this is also the Arabian Nights, and you're probably familiar with the Arabian Nights. We took my daughter, or both my daughters back then, to Disney to meet all the princesses, and Jasmine wasn't there. So I suggested maybe she was held back by TSA. You know, yeah. Did you have any of those thoughts about any of those concerns as you were watching?
We've been dealing with that forever. Films with blackface, films. The Son of the Sheik is just horrifying. It's that's really brutal, and it's all the whole concept is based on Rudolph Valentino raping his girlfriend because of a misunderstanding, but then it's all okay because we love each other. And it's like, no. But you can't, you don't want to erase history like some people are trying to do. So it's, that's what they were showing then. So you show it and then you have the conversation. And if it opens up the conversation, that's what we really want to do. And you don't want to shy away from anything.
Yeah, I was curious about the color. Was that in the original film, or was it added later?
I believe it was original. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe all that color stuff was original. And from my understanding, she invented a lot of the apparatus to get some of that 3D feel with multiple layers of things.
Yeah,
I think Brandon has something to say
yeah, I'll
about
touch
that.
upon that a little bit. So I do know with that specifically, say for example, the waves in the movie. I do know that, I'm gonna butcher her name, Lod Serenia, I believe we're pronouncing her name correctly, used semi-transparent tissue paper for the waves in certain scenes, and used silhouettes throughout the movie as well, but it was just like different interpretations of using light and silhouettes to really achieve the special effects too.
And even the different shapes that are being used for the different characters, right? Even the magician had just this nasty shape, whereas the characters, the sympathetic characters, had more sinews in their form. Yeah, that was very, very beautiful throughout the whole process.
And I thought it was, really kind of lovely that you could distinguish the princess from Pari Banu. In fact, all of the characters. Sometimes in movies, there'll be two actors who look so much alike I can't distinguish them in the film, but this was, I could.
And those ladies had fabulous shoes,
Yeah, even going back to the depiction of Muslim characters, I'm always watching, okay, do I see myself on the screen? And I have to admit, I've never been a place where I was told, attractive stranger, please stay with us. You know, maybe it might happen here. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like the animation just adds so much to the film as well, being an animated film. But that said, I do know the director utilized the multiplane camera, which allows artwork to be filmed and also create a field of depth as well. So something I find really interesting, just the legacy of the film, is, you know, you flash forward a few decades to, as you mentioned, the Disney interpretation, 1992, which really utilizes beautiful hand-drawn animation alongside more 90s computer-generated imagery as well. And then if we're going further, visual artist George Miller, just I think 2 years ago, had an interpretation of Arabian Nights with Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba, where just once again, visually stunning, being the director of Mad Max, Fury Road. So I think just the interpretations that continue, there might be, you know, issues with each one, maybe the story alone, but I think each time it just defines the visual feast for the next generation.
What is this type of animation called? Does anyone know?
I wonder if anyone in the audience would know, but yeah.
I believe it would be corrected stop motion in a sense too with the silhouettes.
Stop motion silhouette.
Yeah.
Stop motion silhouette, I guess.
Almost like a shadow puppet sort of thing.
Yeah. I want to ask you more about the music, about how many instruments were we using here?
Well, Roger has a synthesizer, so he had a full orchestra and anything at his fingertips. I had all the percussion stuff, so disassemble a drum set, a bunch of cymbals, a beautiful piece of garbage bent metal that they bow, make that creepy sound and kind of thunder sounds. I had a hammered dulcimer, some bongos, a djembe.
Did I hear a
And the
saw?
music, oh yeah, and the musical saw. Who could forget? Yeah, and the musical saw is always the secret weapon. Yeah.
And would there be, for example, for this film, is there a default instrument there or a default genre? How would you imagine that?
Well, I'm not sure there's a default instrument. We certainly used tunings to hopefully make you feel like you're in Arabia. But just all the instruments blending together and
Yeah, it goes back to that point of it being just absolutely seamless. You know.
Was there an original score? I know that a lot of these films had one, but I mean, what's extraordinary about what you guys do is it feels contemporaneous with the actual film itself.
well, I don't know if there is an actual score. We never go back and listen to them if there are.
I believe the original score was
No, because we
Wolfgang
don't want to
Zeller.
be influenced by it because that's looking backwards, and we don't want to look backwards. We want to help propel these great works of art into the now. So, needless to say, there's some instruments that would not have been utilized, synthesizer. But we right from the start. I mean, we started. We were very naive, but the process was kind of similar in that we're just translating what we see to what you're hearing now, and the modern audiences. We've grown up with TV, we've grown up with these talkies, we've grown up with all this stuff, and if you just play music from the 20s, again, it's pulling you backwards instead of we're trying to propel it forwards. So that's what we're going for, and trying to stay true to the films too. I think there was concern early on that we would somehow be mocking them because we were coming up with modern scores, but that's not the case at all.
This is your artistic interpretation.
Correct.
And so 10 years from now, if you were to revisit this, the score could be completely different.
Absolutely. Case in point, Nosferatu, which we'll be performing at the Milwaukee Film Festival in a couple of days. We've scored that 3 times now. Originally with our original keyboard player, Caleb Sampson, and then a bunch of years later, and now since it's just the 2 of us, we wanted to look at it again. And we always felt that the previous ones have been more active and less creepy and subtle. And maybe it's older age or maturity. I don't know. It can't be maturity. but older age is, we're settling in a little bit. So I think
Do you write this stuff down? You have sheet music?
Roger uses sheet music because he's sitting there at the keyboard. Mine, I use it depending on the instruments. If I'm playing an accordion, which I didn't play today, or the dulcimer, I write down a basic of what the piece is, and then I just let it go from there. Other than that, it's more structural for me, what instrument I'm playing, because I'm usually pretty far away from the music. So I'm watching the film, I'm listening, I'm interacting. So again, that helps it flow and become organic and a little different every time. There are times if I'm starting something, I'll write down again, like on drums, I'll write a little beat, a couple bars. That's how it's starting, and then just let it flow from there.
I'm thinking about what we've heard from you over the years, and I don't know if we ever talked about how you, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I can't imagine someone saying, you know what, I'm just going to compose for silent films. So how did you get started?
Completely by accident. Like I said, the film programmer friend of ours in Boston loved the restoration, the Marauder restoration of Metropolis, didn't like the score. Hey, you guys, maybe it'll be fun for a weekend. So the first time we performed in the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline, Massachusetts. The first night there was maybe 50 people. The second night there was about 200 people. The third night in a row, they were turning people away at 650 seats. So we thought, I think we might be onto something.
I think what Chaz is asking is, what was your day job before you started doing this?
Well, I was a musician, so I worked a lot in the food service industry. And yes, I grew up in Connecticut, Portland, Connecticut. Roger grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We both met in the rock music scene in Boston. And the older you get, the more people drop out of the scene, and it seems like we might be the only two left from that generation. So you find each other.
I just want to say
Also,
too,
was it very,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you, I just want to ask him, you talk about Roger, for years there were 3 here.
Yes.
Was it difficult to make the transition from 3 of you to 2 of you?
No. There was little challenges, but it wasn't really difficult. And the timing was really fortuitous. It was Ken Winokur, the third member. COVID hit. He didn't want to do it anymore. I get it, 35 years later, it's a lot. A couple of years previous, Roger had moved to Vermont from Boston. And just before COVID, I moved to Vermont from Boston. And so it kind of made it easier. And so, it just sort of worked out that way. And then we probably wouldn't exist if we were still in Boston. There would have been those years where you can't go to Boston and, stay at people's houses and rehearse. Ken ended up losing the lease for his studio, so we didn't have that. So I have this little studio in my house, and what I find is it opens up a whole new world. That there's more of a freedom with 2 people to interact and improvise than with 3. There are still a few films where we have a third friend from Boston come. Metropolis, we need a little more body to the percussion. Man with the Movie Camera, we need a little more. And The Lost World was very percussive. Other than that, it was really fun for me to try to, what was he doing, what was I doing, blending the two. And it's like a fresh start after all those years. So it's been really, really fun.
Brandon?
yeah, I just want to do a quick callback to regarding silent film and music joining it as well. He's not here today, but the organist that was here previously throughout the week, Dr. Stephen Ball, absolutely deserves that. But I spoke with him last night, and he wanted to remark on that since he's not here this morning. He gave me a nice quote, and I was thinking about throughout the movie, saying that live orchestra music during silent film, the visual poetry finds a way to flow into one's ears and in turn one's soul, which creates nuance, tension, emotion, only hinted at on the silver screen. So I was thinking of that throughout the movie, and I think that was extremely prescient.
Yeah, I mean, what's really impressive that you guys do is that, I mean, there's so much silent film music that is just wall-to-wall music that doesn't pay any real attention to what's going on the screen. And you guys hit every beat, and I think that's just extraordinary.
Well, thank you. I don't want to critique anyone else's style or what they do, but yeah, needless to say, I enjoy the way we do it, and you just get so enveloped in the film. And people say, you know, aren't you exhausted afterwards? Especially after like Metropolis, 2.5 hours of this. I say much more emotionally exhausted than physically exhausted because of the whole, you know, throwing yourself into the film and into the music and the focus it takes to watch the film and to react to the other musicians and to really, you know, go with it. And so it's a much more of an emotional exhaustion in a good way.
How much time does it take you, if there's an average, to compose a score for a movie?
It depends on the film, and it's, again, shifted now with just two of us. Traditionally, we had always spent a summer, so it was like 2 to 3 months of intensive working and scoring it, and this note has to be here, and this note has to be here, and we have to all do it together. And as time went on, you know, we got a little better, hopefully, at doing it. And like I said with Nosferatu, now we kind of go with the flow more, and so it's a much quicker process. Again, once we come up with it's fairly quick to come up with the themes, and then once we have the themes, there's so much room to play around within. So it ends up being a lot quicker than it used to be.
And do you have interns or apprentices? I would just hate to see it just die out.
No, my wife helps me carry the equipment up the stairs, if that helps. But no. And who knows what will happen. You know.
And so philosophically, how would you describe what is the purpose of a score? Is it a character? Is it accompaniment? You know, as you're going through this, I mean, it seems as though your just approach is far beyond all that, but what do you hope the audience to experience?
Well, like I said earlier, I hope they feel like this was meant to be on the film, that we completely forgot this really matches up. You know, we don't want to distract, and you know, some of these things, there's big loud stuff going on, and there was always a little fear of distracting, but we want it to be completely immersive. And you know, there's a lot of characters, so you try to touch on each one. Sometimes they get their own specific theme, sometimes they blend, sometimes you know, you change the key or you change the instrumentation depending on what's going on. But it's basically just, you know, throw ourselves in and immerse it, try to immerse.
Do you take into consideration at all that this was a woman filmmaker?
No, we don't look at it that way. It's, you know, each film is that we try to find great films. We try to find great prints of these films, and you know, whoever directed them is not in our mindset. You know, we don't really think about that. It doesn't put us in a different situation. I don't know if we would score differently if we looked at it in those terms. We just look at it as a fantastic piece of art as it stands, regardless of who made it.
We're going to, are there microphones out there? We're going to go to the audience. Are there microphones?
I have a question in the balcony to your left.
Okay.
Hi, I was curious about the fact that it's a German film, but the story and the culture and the artwork seems like Islamic or Arabic, and so I was curious if you guys know about the cultural, like the relationship between those cultures, the history behind the making of the film, and kind of what was brought to it.
Well, in the first scenes, I found myself enjoying how much I was laughing because we had a sultan who had an Ottoman Turkish-style turban. The parade was elephants, which would be the Mughals in India. And then the palace in the back was more of the Baghdad style. And so we could call all of these stereotypes or just brilliance of fusion of different Muslim cultures. Yes and yes. But I think essentially the point was to create just this wonderful, jubilant atmosphere.
And I think it's interesting too that there was actually some things I learned that were omitted from the film. Charlotte's, or Lot, Rainier actually had a queer romance in the film as well between the Emperor of China and character Ping Pong. So that was censored for audiences at that time, but there's still a little bit of hint of that when it comes to Ping Pong being the Emperor's preferred individual throughout the movie.
The depiction of the spirits, you had the evil dark spirits, you had the white spirits. We could even trace that back to Hieronymus Bosch in the 1500s Garden of Earthly Delights. I think it's a mixture of all kinds of things.
Hello, Doug Williams back here by the VIP section. I want to say you definitely were successful in making the musical accompaniment seamless. I came in here a little bit late because of the marathon. I almost couldn't get here in time because I was locked.
Did you run?
I almost did, but I was able to get here. I ran from my car where I parked to get in here. So I didn't even know you were in the orchestra pit. I just thought this was a part of the soundtrack. I mean, it was that seamless.
Well,
I
thank
want
you
to say
so
that, yes, definitely. The visuals reminded me of a couple of things coming from African-American and even art perspective, thinking of Aaron Douglas's murals. Some of them are at Fisk Universities on the walls. Some of the layers, even thinking back to the Egyptian hieroglyphics. And then even thinking about the more contemporary artist, Carol Walker, and even her illustrations for Jamaica Kincaid's new book, a children's book for colored children, but she includes all children, obviously, because even my white nieces and nephews are in that color range too. I'm also a saint and an usher for the performing arts. And years ago, we had Renee Baker here in the orchestra pit for a silent film for the first Black international film star, Josephine Baker, for Dile Saronzo de Tropic. And are there sometimes, in the future, in terms of your collaborations, are there some other artists and things that you'd like to work with for projects? I'm just interested and curious about that.
We are open to anything. Again, what we're looking for is something that kind of fits our style. You know, the sappy, romantic films aren't really what we're geared towards. It's getting harder and harder as time goes by because there's only this many silent films. You know, every now and then there's a discovery, but most of those discoveries, like when they discovered Frankenstein, you know, they're like really early and a tougher watch for audiences and general audiences. So it's a really kind of delicate balance between film festival films and general audience films, and we try to find things that are both. And like this one was on our wish list for years. So, you know, you never know. We're always open, and things seem to find a way to either find us or we find them when it's the right time.
So what he said, I always thought this was a crazy thought in the back of my head, but I'm just going to say it now. We loved having Renee Baker here. We loved having the Anvil Orchestra here. I wonder if there is some world where the Anvil Orchestra and Renee Baker can do something together. I would love to see that.
Sorry, nothing is out of the question. Anything like that requires a next level of, you know, where do you do it? How do you do it? Is there time to do it? Is there, you know, is it financial? Can we financially do it? So there's a very complex formula, but like I said, we're open to anything. So, you know, we're ready for anything if it comes to be that time for it.
I worked with her on something that they did at the opening of the academy out in Los Angeles, and we had some grants and sponsors, so maybe we can look into something to make it financially viable. But anyway, just a thought.
I have a question, front center.
Yes, I've been a film music fanatic my entire life, and I think what you guys do is incredible. And this is a simple question. I could swear I heard a theremin in there. Was that done with the synthesizer?
No, that was not the synthesizer. The sound you heard was the musical saw. So I get that question a lot. In fact, a bunch of years ago, someone came up afterwards and said, where's your theremin? I said, well, it's a musical saw. And he said, no, I know, it was a theremin. I was like, well, no, it's a musical saw, I'll show you. He said, nope, it was a theremin, and he insisted. So finally, I said, yeah, you're right. It was a theremin. Somebody must have stolen it and left me with this crappy saw. And he was happy as a clam. So, yes, the musical saw is one of my favorite instruments. You have to pick your spots for it.
What is the difference between a musical saw and a regular saw?
Well, back in the old days, regular saws were more flexible. Then they got better at it. So if you go to the hardware store now, they're much more rigid and harder to bend like that. So mine is a specifically made musical saw by this company in Sweden called the Sandvikers. It's actually a Stradivarius. They stamped it right on there, so you can't argue with that. So yes, it has, and there's different sizes and things of musical saws you could do. But
Okay, this
yes.
is getting more surreal than the film. Can you explain what exactly how does a musical saw musical? Is it like the metal?
You bow it with you can either bow it with a violin bow, which is what I do, or you can hit it with a rubber mallet and make yoing sounds. So it's it's sort of creepy and sort of beautiful and can sometimes sound like an opera singer. But the beauty of it, as opposed to a theremin just has a pure sound. Whereas with the saw, I can get harmonics and I can make it really creepy. So it opens things up.
I mean,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm now curious about the history of the musical saw. I remember seeing some, American music from the 30s, from Appalachia, people playing saws then.
Yes, in that time period, there was a lot of jug bands. So the guy playing the jug and somebody playing a one-string wash tub bass and somebody playing the saw and the catgut strings on whatever violin, or I guess not a violin, it would be a fiddle then. And so it came out of, we don't have anything, let's make some music, what do we have? Similar to the steel drums in Caribbean music, this is what we have, let's make music with it.
Okay, that was our last question because we're going to take a break and we're also going to give you time to go visit Roger Miller in the East Lobby. Please, thank you, help me thank Terry Donahue, Roger Miller, and the Anvil Orchestra. And on my most part, Brandon Carey, Ray Cohen.
The favorite part? What was your favorite part?
And I liked it all.
She liked it all. That's
my
great.
answer too. I liked it all. My favorite part was talking to you beforehand.